past and present. Oh, these topics don't get any more easy for me to be able to express, because when I have to express myself, it comes from the past and I have to invoke it into the present. And talking about these things in past ideas, terms that I don't normally speak about today because I've already accomplished these things, are so difficult to pull from within me. But hey, I learned it at some point. I might as well share it now so you get to learn it at some point too, right? I think that's as easy as it's going to get. So today I want to be able to talk about the past and the present, and why you're probably focusing most of your attention and your energy and your dedication, everything that you do, on the past. The things that are behind you. Now, why would I do such a thing? Why would I waste all my time and energy on something that just isn't here? Well, let me answer that for you. Let's say 80% of people, they focus on the past. They focus on what's behind them 80% of the time. And by the way, that's most people focus on the past 80% of the time. Correct me. And then they spend 20% of the time focusing on the future, where they're trying to improve upon the things that they don't have. Now, that is in proportion of 20% is focused on gratitude, thankfulness for what they do have, and 80% is focused on, oh crap, I'm regretting things that are in my past because I don't actually have this fulfillment that I'm looking for. And what we're really searching for here is some sort of feeling. We're not saying, oh, well, I happen to have this thing in the past, and, if only I had the golden shiny penny that would completely change my life, then, I could be able to have a completely different story. You're not looking for that thing. You're looking for a feeling. So the reason why this is important is because 80% of people, most people focus 80% of their time and energy on the past instead of focusing on the present. So therefore, what their hope is focused on is not the future, but their hope is in the past. And when your hope is in the past, it's actually what is called regret. And you don't want to have regret. So in terms of flipping the switch and completely changing your perspective on what it is that you're thinking and believing, instead of having 80% of your time and energy focused on the past, these things that you hate and regret and don't want to change in your life, but you never get to change it, and it's out of your control because it's in the past. Therefore, you're worrying and mentally and emotionally rehearsing what you don't want to happen, also known as worry. You spiral out of control because you cannot control those things that happened in the past with this worry. Therefore, it turns into depression, because depression is mentally and emotionally rehearsing what you don't want to happen when you cannot control it. So, flip the script, my friends, and focus 80% of your time and attention on being able to be grateful for these things that you do have. And then that will alleviate these stresses, these worries, these anxieties, these doubts, and everything that overcomes you and your mind and your ability to control your mental state of being. And then take it and say, you know what? I'm grateful for 80% of what I do have. But this other 20% of my capacity that I have left to focus on this other thing is going to be focused on improving. And that improvement is focused on being able to improve upon the things that you don't have. Does that make sense? So you lay down the foundation. You're grateful for everything that is and happens to you and that you are. And in turn, you then spend the remaining amount of energy on improving upon these things that you don't have, right? So let me give you an example. My life has been riddled with a ton of crazy experiences, but it's always really hard for me to pull an example from my past. But let's just say that when I was really sick, I was focusing on being able to do things that were out of my control until I started to bring it into my control. Therefore, I was focusing on dumb things like people who were in my family and weren't treating me correctly. Therefore, the things that I could not control and I didn't realize because they wouldn't accept my opinion, it was only their opinion that mattered. These things that I couldn't change about engagements we had in the past, I would focus on mentally and emotionally rehearsing what I didn't want to happen in those experiences again and again and again and again, so that traumatic experience was just like lightning coursing through my body. Every time some new experience happened or I thought about this past experience, it was like a jolt that went and I was like, oh my gosh, like I cannot get rid of these negative thoughts. What am I going to do? And my whole body was experiencing this trauma on repeat. So I didn't know how to be able to control it. And then I realized that, what, I don't have to be thinking these dirty, evil thoughts and constantly criticizing myself and thinking about these things that actually hurt me and jeopardize my being. Instead, I can focus on what is actually useful, right? So the moment I flipped that script and started asking myself, what's actually useful toward this thing that I call progress, which I didn't realize was truth at the time, I started realizing, oh my gosh, the people that I'm communicating with are completely toxic. And everything that they're spewing from their mouths is poison. And, I cannot control the situation because the environment is what is overpowering me at the moment. And I have to gain control of my mind in my seeking out of progress that I'm looking for. And in so doing, I sought this progress and I gained control of my own mind, not of the people who would never listen to my opinion and press their own upon me. You see, so that was out of my control. And while I wanted to change the situation and I tried to take the initiative and I tried to change the energy of the people around me, they weren't looking for improvement. And they definitely weren't looking to be responsible for their own emotions. So they would therefore project them onto me. Because the situation that they were in was they were in self-acceptance of their own self-misery, which in turn brings them to a state of glorification of their own self-acceptance because they see themselves as amazing when they're actually the devil in disguise. So if I can't control the devil in disguise, that is my family, then let me put it a pun, holy shit, it's not a good idea to keep poking them and thinking something good is going to happen. Because what happened is I got a negative reaction and another traumatic response that coursed through my body, and I wasn't able to control myself until I realized that gratitude was the answer. And when I focused on gratitude 80% of the time, okay, and then I focused 20% of my time on improving, these formulas didn't exist until I solidified them, and I'm like, hey, these are things I'm learning and teaching myself, and this is something I need to do, and when I do it, I will feel the tune of being me and not doing somebody else that isn't you. Pass! And that freed and liberated me. So, if you're focusing on the past, you have hope in the past, which is also known as regret. And if you're focusing on the future, then you have hope in the future, which you can improve upon and live in. And that's what I hope for you to do. Focus on your future and be grateful for the things you do have now, because believe me, when you get your perspective in check, somebody else has got it way worse than you, way worse than me. My story is not the worst for everybody else's destiny, okay? We're going to unfold in our own unique ways, but look, we all have our own extremes, and we think, the world revolves around us, but it doesn't, okay? It doesn't. So don't focus on the past as if everybody's going to help you change it and all the things you messed up in to get you to this point now. You just got to improve and do it for yourself. Eventually you'll get to the point where everybody's going to try and come together to help you with unity, but you have to be able to improve to that point and build your character so that you're worthy of showing your improvement to be worthy of being worth what it is that you say you are, okay? You have to be a man or woman of integrity, and that's how this works, all right? Past and present, have hope in the future, because past is regret. You don't want that. And one more thing, I thank you for your time and attention, because it is the most valuable thing for me. Your participation is wanted. I love and appreciate you, because without you, my work wouldn't have any meaning. So I have hope in the future that we can be able to do great things together and change and shape humanity for the better. Because I believe that you can be your own unique individual self while also staying true to the vision of unity. And if there's anything I want for you and the rest of the world, that would be it. Okay? Be your highest, truest expression of yourself by having hope and improving into that person that you want to be, because that's the mission that we are unfolding into by changing the destiny for the entirety of humanity. Oh my gosh, let's slick some more wickety-wackety rhymes and get these things on time so we can be living in sublime, because we are humanity at its best. Okay?